Welcome, this is Gary Mendez, and today I'm here with TDA Founder and CEO Goran Deak, and we're talking about coronavirus and crisis-proofing your business. So let's get started. So Goran, with the massive changes in the market, how are businesses changing the way they address their markets?
So if we take a look at what's currently happening in the whole world, we have the situation of people getting more flexibility, more speed, more transparent way of doing business, standing closer to their key customers. And if we take a look at the cause of all of those things, we can see that digitalization is one of the main factors why people do that. And why is this happening at this moment? It's because all of social media, all of internet, all of the speed of internet and everything that people are building are closely tied down with the user expectations, people's expectations, clients' expectations. So everything needs to be prompt, everything needs to be fast, everything needs to be flexible, and everything needs to be forward-looking towards the client more than ever. So I would say if you're talking about the whole point and the move and the shift, how companies are moving now, and they're moving faster than ever from a traditional perspective to a perspective which is digitized, which is in real time, and which is going towards automation, robotization, and the next gen of technologies.
So how is the outbreak of the coronavirus affecting people's digital transformations?
If we take a look at the speed of digital transformation in the market right now, before the corona outbreak, it was already ramping up in speed basically on a month level. So people were looking into the digitalization on a really, really close perspective. So businesses are looking at now from already a small business perspective, solo entrepreneur perspective, all the way to the grand entrepreneur and enterprise perspectives. If we take a closer look what a health crisis like corona outreach has done now, it has only increased the speed, and it will continue to increase the speed of the digitalization of companies, solo entrepreneurs, enterprises in general, in close future, but also long-term future.
So what are some of the ways that people are on the brand side trying to reach their consumers when their consumers aren't necessarily leaving home or going out into public spaces?
This is pointing out to the critical matter that we mentioned in the questions before, why digitalization is really, really important and crucial for the modern customer, modern client. It basically shows that we have to have a means of communication, how to reach the client, even in the cases like we have now with the coronavirus. So what brands are doing is they're heavily looking into social media communication, into real-time communication through apps and mobile phones, through their websites, and they're communicating with those clients. And what's the difference now when we take a look at the state of the world where we currently live in? The consumers, the users, the people are already there. So we don't have to educate them how to get on social media, how to use apps, how to use website. They're already heavily transformed. They're, let's say, really good with the technology from young age all the way to the older ages. And this is really crucial when we talk about crises like this. And if we're talking about how brands are communicating, we can see everybody from non-profits to governments to small businesses and enterprises using social media and social media channels for critical health and safety information, for information about usability of their products, accessibility of their products. If we are talking about retail industry, we now see a heavy uprise of e-commerce and users ordering stuff at their homes, especially daily goods, which had practically an immediate impact from the corona perspective. And here you can see that modern technologies and technologies like e-commerce and everything that is digital has a really great means of being flexible and really, really fast when something like this happens. So this is one more proof to the point of why digitalization is happening, why it will continue to happen in the future, and why it can protect both the enterprises and also the clients, the consumers, against health crisis, economic crisis, and something like this. And again, I'm talking about being flexible and being fast. The level of adaptation from the users going from the traditional to digitized now in situations like this is really, when you take a look at the research that's currently being done and what's happening with the users, you see that traditionals, people who weren't so prone of using technologies such as mobile phones, e-commerce, ordering online, they're quickly adapting now, and they're going and using those means just because something like coronavirus pushed them. So I don't think it's gonna stop when corona outbreak stops, and when we have the corona slow down and all the stuff that's currently happening with the quarantines. I think it's gonna stop. I think now users will think about stuff like that, situations like this, and they're gonna continue to embrace technologies and think about the situations, I think, more carefully now.
Do you think we have really crossed a point of no return? Are consumers now changed forever, or is this temporary?
I would say that it doesn't matter the corona outbreak that we have on the global perspective now, we were already on that path nonetheless. But I would say that what's currently happening in corona has just increased the speed of that change. And I would say that it's never going to return to the way how it was just a few months ago. And if we take a look at, from for example, entrepreneur perspective and enterprise perspective, now people will heavily think about automation of their processes, robotization of their processes, which maybe they thought already about, but not so critically as now. So now situations like we were talking that drones in package delivery, they're far away from being commercially used on a daily level. Now you see a potential of investments in that type of technology really growing fast. And this is from the awareness perspective, because now you can see that robotization, automation, marketplaces on the internet are basically much less affected by health issues or economical issues like you have now. And if you put on everything on top of that, the level of flexibility and speed of delivery that you can scale on those things, then you just add to the equation. So I would say this is the point of no return. I would say that we were already on the point of no return, and it was already a process, and the corona outbreak just increased the speed of that transformational process. And people from the client side, consumer side, and also from the entrepreneur side and enterprise side, well, I think will take a closer look at adapting to those new technologies much faster now.
What kinds of businesses do you think are well equipped to handle this transformation, and especially this particular crisis that we're in right now?
If we take a closer look at the business perspective and all the companies that you have, business verticals currently on the planet, I would say the ones that are already digitized, such as us, such as TDA, who is a marketplace and is global, doesn't really get so easily affected by situations like this. So if we take a look at the global companies like Google, who have the core of their services online, and the means are online, and services such as Facebook, such as Instagram, such as Snapchat, all the communication means, they're not so easily affected with health disasters like we have now. So I would say that already digital companies and fully digital and fully transformed companies are already prepared for the future and are less likely to be seriously hit by crises like this. But also we see now how the retail industry is given a new moment, with all the users now being scared and sitting at their homes and saying we would rather order stuff to our home than go out to the store and pick up something by ourselves. So this also shows the new opportunities for those traditional. When you take a look at them, you would still consider them as traditional companies. So it has given them a really good boost to think about digitalization now, and users, their clients, consumers, they gave them a really good reason why to do that now. So I would say going from already digitized companies and already fully digital companies to the traditional ones, there we already see a really good push and really good reason to increase their level of digitalization. So if we're talking about being affected, it all depends on the speed of the preparation that those enterprises are now ready to go at. What does that mean? It means you can do e-commerce really fast. You can do social media outreach really fast. You can do website upgrades really fast. You can do apps really fast. If we're not talking about really big projects, but for the crisis like this, you can really fast do a fast adaptation to the technologies and use those technologies now, because if we're talking about crisis for Corona, they were saying it's going to last for at least the next 3 months. So entrepreneurs and companies in general should see this as a really big challenge, but also as an opportunity to take their businesses to the next level. And they never had a better reason to do that. And now they have a really good reason.
So on the other side of the spectrum, are there businesses that are more impacted, that will have a more difficult time handling a situation like this and transforming digitally?
Of course, when you take a look at the current situation on the stock market, you can see that oil and gas companies have already been heavily inflicted, and the prices have been plummeting for some time now, and as it looks, they're going to continue doing that because all of the quarantines and people moving less, and logistics and everything moving slower. So I would say there will always be a part of the market which can be digitized only by a part, and it will have a more impact on them whatever we do. But on the other side, if you're taking a look at something that's usually more rigid and more slow moving, like governments and public companies who are bound with big number of processes and huge chain of decision making, you can see they're already moving much faster, because if you take a look, governments are now communicating with the population over social media, and they're deploying the information and adapting the social media channels much faster, and they're seeing that now there's a fast means of communication. So when you take a look at something that's really traditional and really rigid, such as governments and countries, you can see that they're already digitizing overnight and using social media in a way that didn't use it until now in recorded history.
So how is this situation and really this crisis affecting digital agencies?
So I would say that we have a pretty good understanding about that, since we have 5,500 agencies coming from 120 different countries, which is practically the whole world. And we see also for the agency and all the agencies on the planet, we see challenges and we see opportunities. So on the challenge side, they have to also move to a more transformative way of doing business, which is basically now you have to communicate with your client even more digitally, which means Skype conversations, Hangouts conversations, and talking to your client fully online, which for some traditional clients will be a little bit of a challenge, but I see this what's happening now as a really good opportunity to educate those types of clients also. On the opportunity perspective, I really see now for them a chance to educate their clients how to be flexible, how to be fast, and how to use every digital channel that you have, all the way from the production side. So if you're talking about producing video materials for information about what's happening and how to use their products and how to engage with their customers, all the way to social media and analytics and web development. So this is, I think, a really good time to educate the market and educate their users, because I think really they're going to listen more carefully now, and they're going to be more conscious about what digital agencies tell them. Because if we take a look at how people are consuming all the information now, it's on the internet. It's primarily via social media channels, via news media, and then generally over the websites and over the applications that the enterprises are providing for their customers.
So tell us a little bit then about crisis-proofing a business and sort of how that fit into your vision for TDA at the outset.
Yeah, of course. I think it would be good to mention how TDA was planned and how it became an idea in my head. I was always thinking about, let's build this product so it's bulletproof. And what does bulletproof mean? It means it doesn't matter where on the planet you can consume it. It doesn't matter if it's struck by economic, health, or any political reason. You still can work. You're still really, let's say, resistant against anything like that. And you have the flexibility and speed. So from the internal perspective, employee perspective, who are really flexible and can work from home, all the way to external, how the clients are being handled. So if we take a look that we are the meeting point of businesses and agencies who are delivering services for those businesses, every single part of that process is digitized. So all the way from delivering the project from a customer who now sees the need for social media outreach to the agency who will deliver that service is now digitized. And I would say all the businesses who function like that, it doesn't necessarily mean online, it can mean automized and robotized, are protecting themselves against contaminations, against quarantines, against something that will impact their business over the night. And modern technologies, first time in the human history, are, I would say, on a sufficient level to provide protections against that. So if we take a look at the crisis that happened in the 80s, you didn't have all those means of protection such as robotization, artificial intelligence, online marketplaces who are resistant and who are more, let's say, flexible towards stuff which is happening now. And even if we take a look at 2008 and the global crisis that hit the markets in 2008, the technology still wasn't ready and still wasn't there. You had the speeds of the internet, connectivity was still on the low level, the level of the power of your personal devices such as mobile phone wasn't still sufficient enough to handle really complex applications and processes which you have now. And now, first time in human history, you have something that can help. So I would say all the businesses who are acting like TDA is acting, which is truly on a transformative level, which means you can be fully digitized and you're not touched by something that's happening in China or something that's happening in Italy or something that's happening in Germany, because you can quickly adapt both your user base and also the provision of your service. And I think that the future for companies to be really bulletproof and resistant against situations like this is to be and to act like we are acting. So I would say the whole concept of how TDA was created is one really good case study now about how to be flexible, how to be crisis resistant, and how to move on with your business in the future.
So if the coronavirus hadn't come up, do you think we would still see businesses crisis proofing right now?
I would say we are seeing it either way, that businesses are increasing the speed of the digitalization just because of the world pushing back and saying we need it more and more and more. So I would say yes in either way. but the speed that will now pick up because of the corona and the awareness of why digital is so important and why we need to have it, I would say that it's gonna heavily increase in speed. And I would say that both from the investor perspective and also from the consumer perspective, the awareness and the need for it and investments and consuming of it will now heavily increase. So I would really say that now all the investors and all the banks need to really take a look and see how they can bulletproof their companies and how to increase the speed of the transformation they're already doing. It's really, really important, and now this is one more proof why we should and everybody should take a closer look at it and actually do it faster.